The Zodiac, unraveling a horrifying and true story of America's notorious serial killer. A group of former U.S. intelligence officers and journalists recently that they probably managed to identify a serial killer named Zodiac, who kept California in fear in the 1960s. Police said the findings of the volunteers were premature. A few years ago, the investigation was resumed. Who is Zodiac? Why didn't there be a movie about it in Hollywood? Should we ever know his identity? A short history of a series of murders and messages. The murders associated with the Zodiac began in 1968. Before Christmas, 17-year-old David Faraday and 16-year-old Betty Jensen were killed in the town of Benicia in the district of San Francisco. At about 9 p.m. on December 20th, the young people went to ride David's parents' car. They stopped at a small lake where their bodies were later found. The young man was killed with one shot in the head. The girl, who apparently tried to escape, received several gunshot wounds in the back. The investigation of this murder lasted almost a year, until in August 1969. Several newspapers received letters in which an unknown man took responsibility for it and another attack in the San Francisco area. He accompanied the messages with a code of 408 characters and a requirement to publish them. Otherwise, an unknown threatened to start killing people in the coming weekend. One of the sheriffs, after the publication of the messages, called them a bluff and publicly demanded the author of evidence that he was involved in the attacks. The next letter came less than a week later. It contained information that authorities have not yet been able to disclose. The author of this letter for the first time called himself the Zodiac and said that if the police figure out the code, they will be able to find it. The first code was solved in a week. The solution was found by a family couple from California. In a message decoded with their help, the author said that he was not just killing, but gathering slave for the afterlife. Officially, Zodiac is attributed to 5 victims, 2 managed to survive after the attack. The suspect claimed to have killed 37 people. Mystery and uncertainty made Zodiac a star. All the TV channels were talking about him, all the newspapers were writing about him. Such popularity led to the appearance of fake Zodiac. One of them, in 1969, called the BBC and said he was very afraid of a gas chamber, a way of executing a death sentence in California. The real Zodiac commented on this call with a new message with a code, but it was only decrypted in 2020. Zodiac personality, is the mystery revealed? I'm not afraid of the gas chamber, because it will send me to heaven, because I have enough slaves now to stumble on me, the murderer wrote in a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle on November 8, 1969. This message was deciphered just a year ago. But any information that could help reveal the identity of the perpetrator was not found in the encryption. Volunteers from the Casebreakers group who claimed in October 2021 that they knew the name of the Zodiac based their evidence mostly on materials from the murder case of Cherry Doe Bates. The official investigation does not RUSH to attribute this case to the Zodiac. The murder occurred in 1966 in the town of Riverside, almost 700 kilometers from San Francisco, 2 years before the Zodiac began killing people in Northern California. 18-year-old Cherry died of numerous knife wounds. Investigators believe that the murderer waited for the girl in front of her car. Prior to dismantling the car, Cherry tried several times to get a car, the criminal offered help, and then attacked the girl. Zodiac, in a letter to the Los Angeles Times in 1971, indirectly confirmed his involvement in the events in Riverside and even added that he had committed several more murders in Southern California, but police find only the simplest as the new suspect. Investigators from the Casebreakers call Gary Francis Post, a former veteran of the U.S. Air Force. Here are the arguments they give. Zodiac and Fast have similar scars on the forehead. According to the researchers, Post received these scars during an accident in 1959. At the site of the murder of Cherry Bates were found Timex watch, a model that was usually sold at military bases. In addition to the crime site were found traces of military-type shoes 10 size, 43 European. Similar traces were found on the sites of crimes committed by the Zodiac. On the clock sheet were spots of paint. Researchers say that Post worked as a mailer after dismissal from the Air Force. In the mid-1960s, Post was undergoing a medical examination at a military base near Cherry Bates' murder site. But what connects the murderer of the student and the Zodiac? Other than the admission of the latter in involvement in the events of these events? A month after the murder of Cherry Bates, the police also received a message in which the unknown person described the details of the crime quite in detail. Describing the murder, the author of the message, like the Zodiac, used the more literary form I shall instead of the usual I will. Both in the letters of the Zodiac and in this confession, the word twitched is equally incorrectly written. Both authors missed the second T. What says the investigation? The FBI and the San Francisco police declined to comment explicitly on the findings of the group of volunteers. The FBI investigation into the Zodiac case has not yet been revealed. In view of the ongoing investigation and out of respect for the victims and their families, we refrain from commenting at the moment, the police said in a statement. Who is considered a Zodiac? At the moment, the only official suspect in committing murders related to the Zodiac remains a native of the city of Vallejo, California, Arthur Lee Allen. Indeed, he died in 1992. The investigation has gathered many indirect evidence against him, but no direct evidence proving his involvement in the crimes has been found. In 1974, Allen was arrested on charges of harassment of a teenager. He spent 2 years in prison. Many considered Allen the Zodiac, as the last message attributed to this criminal was sent shortly before Allen was imprisoned. After that, the newspapers received neither new codes nor new letters. Is it possible to find the murderer after so long? The more time passes after the crime, the less chances the investigators have to find the perpetrator. If you consider that the murders occurred in the mid-1960s, there is a high probability that the perpetrator is already dead. Researchers at the Casebreakers said they have a sample of Post's DNA and are ready to share it with the Riverside Police, which has the genetic material of the suspect in the murder of Cherry Bates. This may bring us closer to the revelation of the mystery of the Zodiac. Recently in France in this way it was possible to establish the identity of the rapist and murderer by the name of Rabbi, who has not been able to catch for more than 30 years. Zodiac and mass culture. Regardless of the success of the investigation, the Zodiac story will continue to attract writers and screenwriters. This loud unresolved case formed the basis of 2 films, the thriller Dirty Harry, 1971, with Clint Eastwood as the police officer leading the investigation, and the detective drama Zodiac, 2007, with Jack Gyllenhaal, Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo. Several people associated with the Zodiac case have signed contracts on the right to screen their life stories. Unresolved to date remain several encryptions of the criminal, which can serve as a reason for new speculations and screenings.